throw parties at Manhattan nightclubs like the Kit Kat Club, and that's where Donald Trump met Melania, at the Kit Kat Club.
Social media today, their new scam is what we'll forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, and my past supporters have bought into the BS hook, line, and sinker.
Paulo Zampoli, someone who ran a modeling agency in the 1990s.
There are certainly files that can be released. There's a trove of information that the Trump administration is right now refusing to share.
Melania Trump's rise from a Manhattan model to becoming America's first lady has always seemed like a fairy tale, right? Well, it's less fairy tale and more scandalous thriller. When you hear what these Epstein files might reveal about her past and connections, it'll have you asking, is this the final chapter in her storybook marriage?
He would go to clubs, and of course we know that he hung out with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, there are parties of him and Melania.
Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. How does a young woman from Slovenia go from posing for fashion magazines to being whispered about in connection with one of history's most explosive scandals? Melania's journey is anything but a straight line, and those whispers lead to some murky places. In the late 90s, Melania Knaus arrived in the United States with a modeling career that many say wasn't exactly soaring, but that changed when she met Paulo Zampoli, a name that keeps popping up in the background of powerful people's lives.
Introduced Donald Trump to Melania as part of Paulo's modeling agency. Apparently he would bring in foreign women to join this.
Zampoli didn't just find Melania modeling gigs, he was known for connecting models with the rich and famous. He introduced her to Donald Trump at just the right time for both of them. He was fresh out of a divorce and she was looking for a way into the high-stakes social scene of Manhattan. Sounds like fate, right? Or maybe just good timing. But here's where it gets interesting. Zampoli also hosted exclusive gatherings at spots like the Kit Kat Club, places that catered to the kind of people who didn't flinch at the sight of pet alligators or champagne bottles delivered by women in tiaras. These weren't just glamorous parties, they were power exchanges wrapped in glitz. Investors, moguls, politicians, and men like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell often hovered at the edges, scouting for opportunities and connections.
Throw parties at Manhattan nightclubs like the Kit Kat Club, and that's where Donald Trump met Melania, at the Kit Kat Club.
Don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff.
And here's Melania, throwing herself into this glittering world where women were frequently treated like bargaining chips. Now, let's ask the million-dollar question. How does this environment influence someone's worldview? Being surrounded by calculated trades of beauty for influence or power perhaps laid the groundwork for Melania's future. Her marriage to Trump carried similar underpinnings. Mutual benefits, public image, and material gain were all key players. Her early days in Manhattan mirror so much of what we saw later. A public figure who skillfully maneuvered through a web of powerful connections. If anything, her story through this lens doesn't look like a fairy tale. It looks more like a well-rehearsed strategy. And here's the kicker. With the Epstein files looming, it may not just be whispers anymore.
The reason people are talking about this guy is because people serving in the highest levels of your administration have been talking about this guy for years.
Paulo Zampoli, someone who ran a modeling agency in the 1990s.
What's scarier than skeletons in the closet? Those skeletons having name tags. The Epstein files have been described by some as a nuclear option for the elites, and for good reason. They don't just hint at isolated bad behavior. They could expose an entire operating system of power and secrecy.
You're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things.
Social media today, their new scam is what we'll forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, and my past supporters have bought into the BS hook, line, and sinker.
And Melania's name? Well, let's just say it's not out of the realm of possibility. Right now, almost 7 out of 10 Americans think the government is keeping that infamous client list hidden on purpose. It's not exactly shocking. After Epstein died in custody under the sketchiest of circumstances imaginable, trust in institutional accountability practically dissolved. These files are like Pandora's box, dripping with the names of wealthy and influential people, and nobody on either side of the political aisle seems eager to crack it open.
There are certainly files that can be released. There's a trove of information that the Trump administration is right now refusing to share.
Essentially said, no, he's the one that thinks it's a hoax. He knows it's a hoax. That's obviously a baseless claim without any evidence.
And Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Interestingly, Epstein claims that he was the one who introduced Melania to Donald Trump.
This bipartisan discomfort is already raising eyebrows. You'd think transparency would be a no-brainer, but nah, the response so far, a lot of finger-pointing and silence. What makes this even messier is how Epstein didn't operate in isolation. His connections stretched far and wide, including to people like Donald Trump and some of his closest allies. When Melania stood quietly by during incidents like the Access Hollywood tape leak, defending her husband's image over addressing the outrage it caused, she proved one thing above all: public perception heads the priority list. The same logic applies here. If these files shed light on ties Melania might have had with Epstein's network during her younger years, the reaction will probably be another flurry of PR spin, and who knows, maybe another awkwardly scripted statement claiming she's staying focused on motherhood.
Try to act a little bit independently from Donald Trump and not just go along with whatever it is that he wants. And I think
Trump continuing to blame Democrats, claiming without providing evidence the party created these files to undermine him and that Republicans who believe it are getting duped.
But blame isn't limited to her. Politicians like Mike Johnson are doing an Olympic sprint away from discussing Epstein's list. Rather than pushing for clarity, they focus elsewhere, which only stirs more anger and fuels conspiracies. If the files actually hit daylight, though, that would create a political quake. We're talking about potential connections, unraveling relationships between political figures, financial juggernauts, and social elites.
And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden,
Rift among the president's most loyal supporters is widening this weekend. The divide is over the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein case.
And why it keeps going, I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going.
This isn't just about protecting Melania or keeping skeletons locked up. It's about the whole house of cards staying upright, and that should make everyone a little nervous. Melania's anger isn't just about personal embarrassment, it's a glimpse into a much bigger picture of power, corruption, and secrecy. The Epstein affair has become a symbol of a system where trust in institutions is falling apart.
President Trump said his administration would release the Epstein files, but now he says those files are a hoax.
Mr. President, your daughter-in-law said that there should be transparency in the Epstein case. Do you agree with her, sir?
With Congress approval ratings below 30% and the Supreme Court at historic lows, it's clear people don't believe the rules apply equally. And why would they? The elite operate under their own set of privileges, leaving justice hanging by a thread.
And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
So the question remains, what else are we not being told? If this rabbit hole is exposed, do we even want to know?